It's something that we've talked about at the church for a while is performative Christianity, where what we're focused on is what does this look like? How is this seen? How does it come across?
I think that's super important for us to be able to see and know that we are all designed a specific way and called into a specific season. And these coaches are just those guys who just can't let it go sometimes. And it's just a relentless pursuit of how do we get better? And like I said, they all can rationalize like, hey, it's not about wins and losses at the end of the day. And at the same time, they cannot turn the switch off.
I think, as you kind of mentioned, the discernment of hearing the Lord's voice in that little seed that he planted and then began to water throughout that process were very affirming and enlightening to me. And that just began to grow. And by the end of the football season, I pretty much knew that that was it for me.
Welcome to Let's Talk About That, the podcast where we deep dive into Sunday's message and explore your questions. I'm your host, Astin Kahnk, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. Whether you're a longtime member of the Orchard or a first-time visitor, Let's Talk About That is your space to explore, reflect, and connect. Join us as we navigate the intricacies of faith, spirituality, and daily life, seeking to understand how the wisdom shared on Sundays can be applied to our modern challenges. So, grab a cup of coffee, find a comfortable space, and let's dive in together. This is Let's Talk About That, where the conversation about Sunday's message never stops. Well, welcome back to Let's Talk About That. We hope you are having a great start to your week. So I am surrounded at a table with some guys and let them go around, introduce themselves, and tell us what they do.
So what you're saying, this isn't a momcast?
This is not a momcast.
This is a coach cast.
This is the first time in a minute that we've, steered away from momcast. And I guess it is a coach cast because I am around coaches. So we'll change that title to Coach Cast.
I love that.
Hey, there we go.
Catchy. I'm Chip, by the way.
Hi, Chip.
Nice to meet you, Astin.
Like your theological statement, I am Chip. If you missed that yesterday, that was quite epic. Yeah. All right. Let this other guy introduce himself.
Yeah, a longtime listener, many-time guest, Trey Lee. Excited to be here with you guys. I attend our Lake City location, and
I mean, sometimes
I'm there literally every week, but that's fine.
You had a baby and Skip.
1 week. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. So, but yeah, been here for quite some time. Also work for Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Very cool. Excited to have this conversation. And we have, last but not least,
Tim Clark. I'm FCA Outdoors.
Okay.
I'm doing FCA ministry in the outdoors environment. I'm on the great Trey Lee's team here in Lake City. So,
Yeah. Essentially what Trey does, but manlier.
Exactly.
Okay. I thought so. I was checking.
man, shots are already fired. All right.
Everybody knows I love Trey.
Allegedly.
We know it's true. All right. So for funsies, first day of school in Columbia County in Suwannee. And so I figured we'd start with a fun icebreaker question. Okay.
All right.
What was it could be a multitude of things, your favorite memory from school, if there was a moment in school that stood out to you, or for us fellow teachers, maybe a teaching year that stood out that you guys want to just, jump in and share.
I'll go first because, number one, that's not the question I thought you were asking. I thought you were going to ask about the first day of school.
Oh,
and
or it could be that.
Well, I was racking my brain. I can't remember a single first day of school I ever had.
So I have one.
I'm sure it existed. I just don't remember it.
Okay, so it was my second year of teaching. I lived every teacher's nightmare of the first day of school. What is that, Trey?
I think for men and women, it may be different things. So
Okay.
You may need
missed. I was sick the first day of school. So in Omaha, our Meet the Teacher was like the night before the first day of school. And so I'm sitting there, meeting all these parents, and I'm like, I feel like death. I really need
them. Kids gave you the crud.
Well, no, I just met them, but literally, I'm not kidding you. By the time I got home, it was a stomach bug. And so I literally had to call my principal that night and be like, I think I'm going to miss the first day of school. And it was terrible because you teach the routines, you teach procedures, all of those things. So you had to start out with the substitute on the first day of school.
Oddly enough, I don't think that's any kid's worst fear.
It is a teacher's first day of school nightmare.
I have two relatable stories. So as a student, I missed the first day of school in 8th grade. I had a massive eye infection and I went home during first period. I wear contacts and probably had them in for too long. But
when's the last time you changed your contacts?
Oh, that's not fair. I changed them right after the baby was born, but prior to that, it had been a while. So I had to miss, and I felt behind for the next 6 weeks at school as a student. But as a teacher, I almost had to miss the first day of school one year. I got summoned for jury duty.
Oh,
and it put me in a ethical conundrum because I was teaching civics that year. And so I was like, do I
get out of jury duty? And like, that feels kind of counterproductive. Or do I miss the first day of school? And so I called and told them the situation, and they said, hey, we'd rather you be at school. Don't worry. We'll summon you again soon. 3 weeks later, I was summoned for jury duty, and shout out to the Columbia County Clerk of Courts for getting me to be able to be at the first day of school, because missing that is a challenge for sure.
Yeah, because you want to start the school year off like on a high note, and I mean it's really sweet. Like the sub had all the kids write like, "We hope you feel better, Miss Sib." So I had a stack of like notes
Miss
from my
Sib
kids.
that I've never met before. Like, let me write you this very thoughtful card, though I have no clue who you are.
It meant a lot. It meant a lot. All right, what about you fellas?
So, Trey, I'm not sure if you were still teaching and coaching in the COVID era, or had you already moved? Okay, so that was obviously just a crazy time. But I was coaching football at Brantford. Suwannee County, I know we did things a little bit differently through the COVID era. So this would have been 19, I guess. 19 or 20. Yeah. So 20. That's probably the most memorable start for me.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was almost September when we started.
Yeah.
But I remember coming in, and our first football game that week, we had to cancel week one, find somebody to play. And so it was just so rushed, and people were wearing masks. We're talking about, how we keep people away from each other. And I remember thinking like, we're going to play football tonight. Like, we're going to play
really hard
football.
to do that.
You're not going to be keeping people away from each other.
Right.
Yeah. Serious question. No names. Did any players wear a mask behind their face mask?
Absolutely not. I think that would have been socially pretty tough.
Yeah, socially pretty Yeah, I'm here for that. So I don't have a first day of school memory, but you said favorite school memory. Yeah. And I do have a clear, far and away favorite school memory. Okay. So in school, like I was always the good kid, made good grades, never got in trouble, all that stuff. But my senior year, we were in class. I was in an honors English class, and the National Honor Society had done a coat drive for winter. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, not all the National Honor Society did it. Like only the people who really took that seriously did it. But yet they came on the speaker about 1 o'clock that day and said, please release the National Honor Society students to go. It was to take a picture for the coat drive or whatever. Well, when they said that, I mean, they didn't say only the ones who participated. And I was a National Honor Society student.
Why not?
So I got up and I walked out. The bad part is when I got to the door and looked behind me, 3/4 of my honors English class had walked out with me, and we just all left. Well, when we came back, waiting on us at the school was the principal, the vice principal, and the dean, whose daughter I was currently dating at the time.
Okay.
And I'm leading the way through the gates, and I can see it in my head. Taylor County had a fence all the way around school. There's a gate you walk through. They were sitting there waiting on us at the gate. And the vice principal looks at me. Mr. Thompson looks at me, and he says, Chip, I'm disappointed in you. You knew better. I thought you were a leader. And my favorite moment in the history of school is when I looked at him and said, well, they kind of did follow me out the door. And that's the story of how I got half the National Honor Society in school suspension at Taylor County High School.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It's pretty good. And the best part about this is my dad saw the assistant principal, Mr. Thompson, like a few weeks ago at a funeral back home. And they were talking about that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that, buddy. I remember that.
That's
They said that the ISS teacher said that was the best day of school she had ever had with half the National Honor Society in her class.
I could just imagine, as Tim calls them, NARPs, non-athletic regular people, walking up and being like, ma'am, can I have my work? And ISS teacher being like, excuse me?
The best part of that day was like our teachers finding out we were all in ISS and them sending us assignments like, draw me a picture of a clown. That's your assignment for today. I mean, just like crazy stuff like that.
That's cool. Well, guys, thank you again for being here. So yeah, I kind of wanted to hear about FCA, what's going on. You had a really awesome, I want to say get together, but a kickoff is probably a better word. So definitely want to talk about that.
Because it's FCA, it's a rally.
It's a rally.
Right. Sure, yeah.
Kickoff rally.
We call it the Kickoff Classic is what we call it. But yeah. It's
but everybody calls their football game the Kickoff Classic.
Right, yeah. But ours is the coolest. But that's fine. Yeah, it's a rally. It's a back to school, rally. And
would you call it a bash?
No. No
bashing.
Yeah, dancing did not happen in the building that night. So,
well, I will say you did have this going for you. It was sponsored by Sonny's.
Yes,
and
nice.
Sonny's was slinging the pulled pork, and I was a fan.
Yes. What a really cool thing. So, for those of you who don't know, Sonny's originated in Gainesville, Florida, and they do a lot for the schools in Gainesville, Florida. And so for the last 5 years or so, they've been sponsoring the kickoff in Gainesville. And the Gainesville director is my boss. And so he was meeting with Sonny's and they said, we love what you guys do. We appreciate you guys. And so we want to do more. And so more meant they were going to sponsor Lake City's Kickoff Classic and Ocala's Kickoff Classic. Nice. So the north, the central, and the southern parts of FCA for North Central Florida all got meals sponsored. And so Sonny's catered in, sponsored 500 meals, and they definitely brought more than enough for 500. Yeah, so we had 530 there.
There was more than 500.
Yeah, we had 530 in attendance and plenty of food left over. And so shout out to Sonny's. And it was the Lake City Sonny's location who came over and served. Yeah, so the Gainesville team kind of put that together and then hired out the Sonny's up here to come and serve. And so they brought the food, set it all up, served the food. All we had to do was provide 10 tables and 10 volunteers to serve food. And it was essentially no cost to us. All we had to do was pay their workers for the day. That was the deal. So they brought the food and we paid their workers for the day. And for 500 meals, we got out of there for almost $1 a plate.
Wow.
So,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I got a question for you. So you said 530 people. So who all was at this event? Like who was invited and kind of what was the purpose like behind it?
Yeah, so FCA is a student-led organization, right? And so almost everything that we do, especially on school campuses, is student-led. It has to be student-led. This is the one event where we don't want students to have to serve at all. Mm-hmm. And we want to pour in and invest in them. And so we ask any of our FCA leadership teams at the schools to come and to be involved. But specifically, the main target audience for this is football teams and football coaches.
Okay.
And then our kind of part B, the people we attack next are any of the other athletic teams on campus and athletic coaches. Part C, the people that we invite next, we open it up to the community here. We don't do that for every kickoff classic, but being from a lot of rural small towns with a ton of FCA support, we want anybody who is interested to feel like they can come and be a part of this. And yeah, it was really cool. We had almost every varsity football team in attendance. There were a couple that had some like orientation that night and were not able to make it, that kind of thing. But almost every varsity football team and a lot of other varsity and JV and middle school sports showed up and were present. And so yeah, it was a really cool night. Last year we had 350 there. This time we went up to 530. And it's not all about numbers, but numbers are an indicator of whether or not we're growing in momentum. And it seems that we are gaining some momentum here. And so fun night, great band. The speaker, Frank Reynoso, was incredible, did such a great job. And I got to say, we brought our team since last year has grown. Last year, I just hired George Dial to do FCA Sports whenever we had the Kickoff Classic. But in the past year, Joe Gaddy has joined our team, and Tim, who's on the podcast with us today, joined our team as well. And
they're kind of all spread out through the region.
Yes, Joe handles Suwannee County for us. Tim serves all 4 counties that I serve, so Columbia, Hamilton, Lafayette, and Suwannee with the outdoors. And George also handles those 4 counties as well. But yeah, we are all spread out all over the place. But man, if there was anybody who was more designed to run games than Joe Gaddy, I've yet to find that person. The dude was in his calling, in his element, and that was incredible. What a great part of that. In fact, some of the coaches were asking for his number of other teams who don't know Joe. They were like, I just want to tell him how great of a job he did just engaging us. And then Tim did our coaches moment, and we always want the coaches to be able to stand up, to be able to be prayed for by their team and by the community around them. And Tim just absolutely crushed that. And so looking back, last year I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off at this event. And this year had our team there. George came and was launching t-shirts with a homemade t-shirt launcher that he had.
Which was pretty sick.
It was pretty sick. And it was really nice this year to not have to do that and to be able to be back behind the scenes, just loving on, caring for coaches during the games, praying with and for our team, helping the worship team kind of know when and where to make some, to cut some songs, to move some songs, whatever. But phenomenal evening.
It was a really good night. It was cool, as your friend, to see you, like you say, step back. Sometimes, leadership happens on a platform. Oftentimes leadership happens off the platform. And so that was cool. And you mentioned Tim, sharing, talking to the coaches. I text Trey while you were talking, used illustration of fire and fireplace, to kind of talk to coaches about their faith. And I thought it was phenomenal. How about sharing like that just illustration, with everybody listening? Because I do think it was a really good way to understand what faith is and what faith isn't.
Right. Well, my background coming into this was 12 years of football coaching, not as a head coach, leading up to this last end of school year. So it's really fresh for me. And so having the opportunity that Trey gave me to encourage the coaches presented an opportunity for me to really come from a relatable place, So I wanted to emphasize two things to him when I had the microphone, and that moment is just that one, there's really good coaches in our area.
Yeah.
So I kind of highlighted that we had state championships in multiple sports across, our area and our 4 counties. And then the second thing was that I know what cost that comes at, that it's a heavy, heavy profession. There's a lot of stress, the time commitment. There's a whole lot that goes into what these coaches put on the table for their student athletes and care for them from the physical and performance standpoint, let alone the ones that truly care about pouring in spiritually to the well-being of their kids. And so I just wanted to encourage them really to not waste their influence. And the illustration that Chip was referring to was just that, I felt like when I was coaching, I could get in that rut of focusing on the grind and just having so many irons in the fire and doing so many things that, we can get in that, call it stagnant maybe phase where consciously I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong, but I was going through the motions and it's almost like, I said, you get on YouTube and you put that image of the fire up on the TV, right?
Which 100% happens.
Oh, absolutely.
Every Saturday during the fall and winter, my wife is going to YouTube TV a fireplace.
Hey, I'm telling
we
you,
don't have a fireplace in Pace, so we'd literally put that just for the ambiance. So I feel that.
Ambiance.
You guys are building this even more and more right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Admitting that.
Yeah, so my wife's a big Christmas time nut, So man, you Google that or you YouTube that during Christmas time, and there'll be some stockings on the little fireplace on there. And, there'll be some jingle bells in the background. So I use that illustration just to kind of portray that, you can put that up there and it can look great and it can sound great. And we really feel like we're presenting well. But when you get close to it, it's not producing, it's not generating any of that truly effectuating warmth, any of that heat. It's not changing the temperature per se of anything around it. And that can be tough and it can be easy to slip into that. And for me, I said, I would tell myself I'm just busy, this is what we've got to do right now. But it was tough to get up and go chop the metaphorical wood.
Yeah.
It was a lot to want to carry it. And so I just wanted to encourage those coaches to not waste their influence and to be very conscious about that and to let us help them with that.
That's good.
Just because the job is heavy, we have Trey, we have George, we have Joe and myself that can just be there for them and help to carry that load some throughout the season when they need somebody to talk to, some advice, just some counsel, some encouragement. But the opportunity for them to use their influence that they have is just astronomical in the coaching field for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was just such a good illustration about, it's a lot easier to turn on a picture of the fireplace than it is to build a fire, But even thinking about that even more, that fire on the fireplace is often going to look a lot better than the fire that you build as well, Right. And it's going to start out big and fast. And if you're building one, it's not going to start out big and fast and let's use diesel. But I just thought it was a good illustration for a lot of people in the room. And it's something that we've talked about at the church for a while is performative Christianity, where what we're focused on is what does this look like? How is this seen? How does it come across? And so I think that fits really well. A lot of times in our faith, we're just concerned about, is the fire on TV, not is it real, And so I thought that was really good. So we've already said, Tim, that you are far more manly than Trey because he works with FCA and you work with FCA Outdoors. But I know that you serve on his team and Trey's kind of like the administrator that helps administrate and lead the team and the region as a whole. But while FCA is like Trey was saying, a student-led, let's do the huddles, let's get in the schools. FCA Outdoors is really an offshoot for that, right? You're not focused on students, you're focused on coaches.
Well, yes. And really the FCA's goal through the mission is we see the opportunity to reach far more of these kids if we minister these coaches first and foremost as well. But you're right, Trey and Joe, when you think of FCA, those guys are the boots on the ground guys that are in these campuses, face to face with these student athletes and the coaches on a more daily basis than I am. And I haven't been with the team very long, but what we've effectively been able to do so far is Trey, Joe, they can work to funnel those extra opportunities for the coaches and athletes to receive ministry through the outdoors experiences in my realm. And so
what do those look like? What do those outdoor experiences look like?
So far, it's dead absolute middle of summer in Florida right now. There's not much to hunt, and
The fish are hot.
right, even the fish are hot.
Right now, everybody's hunting water.
Right.
That's what's going on.
Seriously.
So we've been doing a lot of bass fishing right now.
Yeah.
So a great example is the week before the kickoff classic. I got a hold of Joe and said, hey, who's some bulldogs in Live Oak that like to fish? And he said, oh, I've got you. There's this boy, I call him T3, and he loves to fish, man. Take him. And so we connected through Joe, and he asked if his brother could come. I said, absolutely. And we got on the boat, and they're football players, so they didn't mind getting up early. So we were at daylight on the water, and we fished for a few hours. They had a phenomenal time and just talked and built that relationship. But, when we were done, we climbed up on the hill and got in the shade, and we opened up, the Bible, and we had a great devotional, and we prayed, and we just talked. And that's what it is. That's truly what it is. I'm not bound by the constraints of our region either. I've talked to many people in Georgia's made connections for me in other counties too that aren't in our 4-county region. And I've really enjoyed so far the freedom to be able to branch out off of these campuses and reach these student athletes and opportunities that don't always present during the school year too. Because you look at a guy like Trey, he may be with, for example, CHS baseball, right? Take that for example. He's going to see them from January to May, right? In their sports season. But because there's so many student athletes at CHS, he may not see a lot of those kids again until if they're underclassmen the following baseball season again, especially at a school that size where they may not dual sport, right? So this gives a great opportunity for our team to continue to stay in connection with these coaches, with these athletes in the summer, on the weekends, in the off seasons, when some of those may fall through the cracks otherwise.
Yeah, that's good. I think another thing that I heard about you doing, saw you doing, is you had a group of guys that connected to the Orchard. Shout out Tony DeMoya here from our Lake City location and some of his guys, Hayden, some of his buddies that you did something with that they loved and they showed up from that to the Kickoff Classic that night. So tell us about that, because I think I know what it was, but talk to us about that.
Right. It was just a hunter safety course for FWC certification. And it was as simple as this. I was contacted and said, hey, we're doing this class, and really the involvement that we're looking for with FCA is if you guys are willing, would you come in and just help, just assist and do some devotionals each day? And so that's what we did. And so simple little opportunities like that we can put together, it turned out to be just far more, to me, effective, spiritually, just to be around a group of men pouring into young men, not only spiritually, but just also just a good practical cause. Let's get these kids into the woods and let them do it safely. Let's teach them. Let's get them in God's creation. And it all just came from one idea and one conversation. And that's what FCA Outdoors is, really.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was from the other side of this, there was FWC did the work, right? They did the legwork, and we were able to just come in and partner with them. And so it wasn't necessarily an FCA Outdoors event. It wasn't necessarily, something that we were trying to take hold of. It was just something that we were invited to come be a part of. And through, we've talked about this plenty when I've been on the podcast, but Tim is a local missionary as well. He support raises as well. And through the generosity of others, we were able to provide them a meal. Every kid left with a Bible, which many of them already had FCA Bibles. And so what I told them was, if you've already gotten one of these, now your job is to take that and give it to somebody else. And so, they didn't have them with them when they showed up, but they left with another Bible. Cool. And so, if they had one, now they're on a mission to go give it away.
And how many kids were there?
15. And Trey, something off of that point that you made, the first day we had the Bibles and Trey said, hey, we have Bibles here for you guys. And exactly what you said, they were church kids. So a couple of them took one, a couple of them grabbed a couple. But then when Trey had that idea and told it to me, I told them that before I left on day 2. Man, the stack was gone.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
They just rushed to the table and every kid
grabbed. And I'll encourage you too. I think some of those kids from conversation I've had are more church adjacent kids than church kids. And so that's cool seeing them get intentionally, invested in, hey, not just come on Sunday and this is church, but this is faith outside of church. And what does that look like? So I think that's really cool. And again, just from the Orchard perspective, shout out to a guy like Tony, who is kind of willing to open up, say, let me know what I need to do. Let me know how to help. I just want to get these guys in front of Jesus, these kids in front of Jesus.
Yeah, Tony has definitely bought into that idea of informal missionary that we've been talking about over the last year or so on Sundays. And that's what it looks like. I think a lot of times we want to overcomplicate this, but Tony Tony has recognized his time, his talents, and his treasures, and he's been able to use those to influence and reach other people. And that's all that an informal missionary is, right? It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be something crazy. This took very little on his end other than, I like this. I have a passion for this. I'm good at this. How can I use this to get others in the room and tell them about Jesus?
Yeah, it's really good. Really good.
Yeah. All right, I got a question for you guys. So both of you guys have been coaches. So what has it been like stepping away from coaching, but still being around it?
Well, that's a great question for me because we're in the season that I lived in.
Yeah.
Right. So Trey was a baseball guy. So spring, I'm sure, is that time for him, even though sports at this point are year round at the high school.
Yeah, they are.
But certainly for me, today's Monday of the second week of August, I'd be wide open.
Yeah.
It'd be 90 miles an hour. So it's been incredibly refreshing for me personally, for my family to be at the pace that we're at now. There's a lot of things I could go into with that, but it's just been such a blessing. But in terms of what it's been like for me, from the football standpoint of it, it's been amazing, honestly, to still feel the connections that I have with former players, especially ones that are currently still playing at the program that I left. We're in almost daily communication.
That's awesome.
And it's cool because I'm from a different angle of it now.
Yeah.
We're really blessed that the coach that replaced me at Brantford, we're good friends and we're very aligned in the vision, and he's been very welcoming about my continued influence on those kids there.
Yeah.
And so I've had no hesitation to reach out to them, and today they all got the day one, be man this week, go get it text. And it's just neat to start to build that relationship up continually, but from a different angle.
Yeah.
So it's been exciting for me. It's I have not missed the whistle yet. I'm sure I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Those Friday night lights kick on. It'll
Absolutely. But it certainly has been phenomenal to stay connected with those kids and be able to continue to influence them just from a different.
Yeah. I have a question for you. So you said this is your first season stepping away. What was that? What did that look like for you when you felt like God's calling to do something different? Like, how did you process that? Who did you? Yeah, I kind of want to know all the details of that.
Okay, well,
I don't know that we have enough time for all the details.
All of the details, but some of the details. I always love to hear, how did people, because that whole process of following God, trusting him on a calling, it's just so cool to see that discerning process that God takes. So I want you to kind of hear just maybe bits and pieces of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Perfect.
If you rewind to last football season, there were a bunch of different factors that made last football season pretty difficult on me. I had a coach that took a job in Georgia. I wasn't able to replace him as defense coordinator. Had another coach on campus that had some health issues within his family, had to step away. So about 8 days before the season, I was looking at being the only varsity football coach on campus there. And I had phenomenal help, phenomenal volunteer guys, but they were guys with 9-to-5 jobs and, weren't on campus with me. And so it was a grind of a football season. I'm not going to lie, it was. And about halfway through the season, I was in the weight room running a group, and Noah, our regional director, came by just to see me, and he just kind of casually mentioned, "Hey man, you'd be great at the outdoor stuff." And said, "But we both know you'll coach till you die."
Yeah.
And we chuckled and moved on about the day. And I think, as you kind of mentioned, the discernment of hearing the Lord's voice in that little seed that he planted and then began to water through other things that Trey termed confirmations, throughout that process were very affirming and enlightening to me. And that just began to grow. And by the end of the football season, I pretty much knew that was it for me.
Yeah.
And just through prayer and just further convictions of the time taken away from my family, the state that it was in my football coaching career, all those doors just started to open up. So I like to tell people that I really didn't have that in terms of call to the mission field, the road to Damascus moment. It was a whole lot of just kind of personal conviction with my family of the time that I was devoting to it and what it was doing to myself and the leadership of my kids and stuff like that. And so ultimately, through prayer and all that seeking the Lord's will, it led to a phone call to Trey Lee.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. As you're talking, it made us, so we've started a sermon series called NIL, Name, Image, and Likeness, and it all goes back to Jesus. And as you were talking, Chip made a comment yesterday about kind of the tension between that sanctification process of knowing what you want for your life, what God wants for your life, and choosing what God wants. And it takes sacrifice. It takes hanging your hat of man, this is where I felt God was, this is what I'm really good at. But God, I trust you in that. And the fact that you took that leap, and I guess Trey mentioned your support raising as well. I've been on this side of that. That's not easy. That is constantly dying to self every day of God, I rely on you to supply all of my needs. And as God does it, he does it like every time. So
it's Romans 12 too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're in all things, we're just, what's the Lord's will?
yeah.
What's the Lord's will? And if we do that, then it's Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
We're trusting that all things are going to work together for good.
Yeah. Yeah. Really cool. All right, Trey, used to be a coach. What has that process like now that you kind of stepped away from that?
Yeah, so this baseball season will be year 2. So I've had a year out of coaching, and that's all I've really known as an adult. I remember I was not going to coach because I was going into education. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're going to coach. You're going to coach." And I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Yeah.
And I never took a break from it.
Yeah.
I jumped straight from baseball playing into baseball coaching, and I will say year 1 was refreshing and relaxing. Year 2, I miss it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'll ever not miss it,
Mhm.
but I get to scratch that itch all the time. I get to go out. I mean, I spent some days with Columbia High School's football team this summer holding the pads and getting run through by some high school football players. And one of those boys that's over there playing wide receiver, he should look at safety because he was hitting me. And I was like, my goodness, I'm not built for this, but I get to scratch that itch. I get to go and hang out with coaches. I get to speak their language, not all their language, but I get to speak a lot of their language, baseball and football coaches. We are very similar in a lot of ways. And so I get to hang out with basketball coaches and learn that a little bit. And that's what's really cool about this job is I get to see different sports that are very different from the culture that I knew through baseball.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, all the coaches are still like the same. All the coaches' hearts are still the same. They have this competitive fire in them that they can't relinquish. And here's the cool thing about it. Over the last couple of years talking to them, every single one of those coaches knows in their heart of hearts that wins and losses ultimately mean nothing.
Yeah.
And yet when the lights turn on, there's something about them that they just can't get away from.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm here to win.
Yeah.
And then after they taste that loss, like practice, the intensity level just increases so much. And it's really cool because I think that's super important for us to be able to see and know that like we are all designed a specific way and called into a specific season. And these coaches are just those guys who just can't let it go sometimes. And it's just a relentless pursuit.
Yeah.
How do we get better? And like I said, they all can rationalize like, hey, it's not about wins and losses at the end of the day. And at the same time, they cannot turn the switch off whenever it's on. And so I get to scratch the itch all I want to. I get to be home with my family all the time. Sammy thinks that he is like a sideline reporter or something. He gets to come stand on the sidelines with
Mascot.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't even know what it's like to watch a game from the stands because we're in the dugouts or we're on the field or whatever at courtside. It's really awesome. So I don't regret in the slightest leaving, but there are some days that I just really miss the relationships you can build. Because when they come to you straight from school every single day and you see them every day, I still, and I love what I do. I served here, leading student ministry here for a while. I have never had a ministry impact like I had coaching.
Mm.
And, there's some great stuff happening through FCA and we're doing great things and reaching way more people than I could have ever reached as a coach at LCMS. But those 20 guys every year, like they were my guys.
Yeah.
And we did everything together and we poured in. And for 3 months out of the year, like you knew what they had for dinner. You know what I mean? Literally we ate dinner together. Right. And so I miss that aspect, but I don't miss the grind at all. So it was time for me to give it up. I wanted to be home with my kids and middle school doesn't take up nearly the time that most of these coaches that we're serving have to give up. But I didn't want to miss that. I wanted to be at Sammy's jiu-jitsu practices.
Yeah.
I wanted to, see whatever Nate gets passionate about. Now Sadie's here and like, I don't have to make that decision. I just get to be a dad. And I don't miss the grind of coaching at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are some things that you guys are like looking forward to for this coming year? You just had the kickoff. So what are like some goals, things that you guys as FCA are like praying into or excited about this year?
I'll take this one first, let you think about it some, but I am very excited to have Joe Gaddy in Suwannee County, helping to serve mostly at Suwannee High School because that's where he works.
Okay.
Resource the middle school and also resourcing Brantford Middle and High. And so
Is that because you like Columbia better than Suwannee?
no, it's because I like to be able to be anywhere that I can be and not anywhere that I have to be, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so we have a guy there.
I heard that as more than just I refuse to wear green and white.
I do wear green and white. Okay. Ask Hunter Abercrombie, text Chip. and tell him that you have seen me in a Swanee Bulldog shirt, please.
I'm waiting, Hunter. I'm waiting on that text, Hunter.
But no, I'm excited to watch our team grow. Prayerfully, in the next couple weeks, our team's going to grow a little bit as well. And so that just, it gives us an opportunity to reach more people in more places. And in a sense, what I'm most excited for is this is the start of working myself into the background and everybody else being able to say, hey, Joe Gaddy's the FCA guy. I don't want to be the FCA guy. I want to be the guy who's pouring into the FCA guys. And so this is like step one into that. And so I'm very excited about that. But then Fields of Faith for Live Oak is already locked in, and we're excited to have that happening. And Patrick Young is going to be our guest speaker there, and he's going to do an incredible job. Fields of Faith at Columbia, that team is starting to get together and work on that soon. Hopefully we see Fields of Faith just all around soon. I know Brantford took a year off last year, and maybe we were able to relaunch that this year. Mayo does 2 each year. And so seeing one in Hamilton County this year would be incredible. And having a team that has grown allows me to be able to go and help Hamilton be resourced to do that now. And so that's what I'm most excited for. It's not really flashy to anybody else, and that's fine. We're not about flash. We just want to continue to grow and do the things that we do and do well and reach more people in more places.
Yeah. Very cool. What about you?
So as I said earlier, I'm only 3 months into this, right, Trey? Something like that. So we've been blessed to have the opportunity to do some things in the outdoors already.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of
And
pictures.
it's even hunting season.
Right, exactly. So that's where I'm going, Chip, is that as I am an admitted outdoors nerd. Right. So I'm an outdoorsman, but I love just the Romans 1:20 of those invisible attributes, right? That God has written into creation that nobody can deny.
Yeah.
Right. So, why are there so many different species of waterfowl, for example, and every single one of them different color patterns and feather structure and all that, when he could have made every single bird look like a crow or something. Yeah.
Or why did he have to make them taste good?
Exactly.
I swear to you that God made cows taste as good as they do is evidence of his goodness.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So with that, he causes the bass to spawn, and he causes the deer to chase after each other when the weather starts changing, and when it gets cold there, he causes the waterfowl to start migrating this way. So it's going to be really, really cool, I think, for me, because I am that outdoors nerd that just loves to see God's glory in his creation, to see the opportunities that he opens up as those things start to change by his design. So right now, all we've been doing is bass fishing, but I know that when the fall comes here, we're going to get some kids in a deer stand. Yeah. We're going to set up some dove shoots maybe. When it gets really cold, we're going to be in the duck blind. And then as the spring rolls around, we're going to chase turkeys. So
very cool.
I think it's going to be really, really neat to see how he opens up through what he's created opportunities for us to do ministry in his creation.
Yeah.
I would just like to throw out that there is a coach of one of our high school teams sitting at this table.
The Belmont boys golf coach is at this table.
Here he's a big deal, to be honest with you.
Big deal.
I was thinking that he might need to be reached. And so he might need to go fishing soon.
There you go.
I need to get the Belmont boys, the inaugural Belmont boys golf coach. No, you're not. No, this isn't the inaugural season.
No, so Chase Hagler actually started the team last year.
Yeah.
Like, that was a crazy story. So first year Belmont's ever had a sport.
That's right.
He started the golf team. And at the end of the year, Leanne's like, he left. He got hired by IMG Academy. And I was like, no, he didn't get hired by IMG Academy. You don't leave Belmont to go get hired by IMG Academy. 100% got hired as like the director of golf at IMG Academy. He has like a whole staff under him and everything. And they found me.
Big shoes to fill.
I was literally about to say that.
You know what? Hey, everybody loves to win. Winners hate to lose. I don't care what I'm playing. I hate to lose, baby.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up this conversation...
That's as we wrap up after that?
Well, I was going to ask how we could pray for him. Like how...
Fine, if you want to get spiritual, that's whatever.
I do. How could we, just as a church, as listeners on the podcast, just could be praying for you guys and encouraging y'all this year? Any specific things that we could, pray for?
Well, as Trey's mentioned, our team overall, just praying that it would grow if it's His will, you know, and there's some really good leads that Trey's working on right now for that, and we're excited about them. Those Fields of Faith that he mentioned, those are phenomenally impactful events, and so that the preparation of that will go smoothly. Personally, for me and my branch of our team, just more opportunity. The Lord has blessed us so far incredibly in the short time that we've been doing it, but there's people out there who don't know about FCA Outdoors yet, and we're excited for that to be on their radar and potentially make those connections. There's coaches that maybe not even are that outdoorsy that we can still reach because of, the relationship that Joe, Trey, George have already put in place there, and we can introduce him to it maybe. So just be in prayer that he would continue to show us the direction we want to go with his team, with the outdoors, and it being so new specifically, and open up those doors.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Trey?
Yeah, mine's going to be kind of obscure, but it's just been heavy on my heart. There's another nonprofit organization that is, I don't know what the word, they just oppose us drastically. Okay. And so,
to be clear, they are not a Christian nonprofit organization.
They're not.
I can see where that's going.
Yeah.
Thanks to clear that up. Yeah.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation, they sent out a letter on their behalf, nobody else's behalf, to every superintendent in the state of Florida. And basically, if I could summarize the letter, it said FCA is doing their job. But they highlighted some things that we could be doing poorly, and we need to be careful to make sure that we're not doing. And that's true. We want to be good stewards of that. We want to honor and respect the guidelines that we have to be on campus, because if we get kicked off campus, then we now are up a creek without a paddle, literally.
Gotcha.
And so they did highlight some of those things. And so we want to pray for us to be obedient to what God has called us to do, to steward the resources and time that we have well, to be equipped and trained to do that well. But the real prayer request is this, and I thought our president, Matt Roop, the state president for Florida's FCA, said it really well. Our real prayer is that those who are coming against us in opposition, we pray for their salvation. And specifically, Matt said, let's take it one step further and pray that instead of being opposed to us in the near future, that they're coming on staff with us and helping us fulfill the mission and vision that God's laid on this ministry. And so if you guys could just join in praying with that, but pray for our staff, because they are watching us like hawks, and they send letters every day on the superintendents in hopes that the superintendents will lock us out, shut us down, or whatever. But the reality is, if we do our job the right way, we're not breaking laws. We're not out of compliance. And so, but we do want them to come to a saving faith in Jesus. And that's our hope and goal for the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, anything else you guys want to wrap up our conversation with, or any last words, Chip? No?
I'm good, I guess.
You good? Okay.
Them all.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for being here with us. Thanks for sharing us, telling us more about FCA and kind of your goals. We'll be praying for you guys, and we're excited to, see what the future holds for you guys. But for the listener, we are praying for you guys. We hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About That. We hope it encouraged and challenged you as we continue to grow on this journey of faith and embrace community together. If you have more questions, thoughts, or feedback, we want to hear from you. Be sure to reach out to us through our social media or visit our website to stay connected. If you found today's discussion meaningful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Until next time, we hope that this episode inspired you and will keep Sunday's message at the front of your mind. See you next week.